What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right. Before I get into the video, I want to give a shout out to two contributors to the channel. The first one being um, James. James donated to the channel, and James said in a message, "My main man on YouTube, keep dropping that knowledge. Definitely want to meet you in person one day." Well, I want to, first of all, say thank you, James, for your donation to the channel, your constant support to your channel. And if you're ever in the Richmond, Virginia area, you know what I'm saying, hey, we might hook up, you know what I'm saying? And I want to give a shout out to Jason for his contribution to the channel. Jason's actually a longtime friend of mine, and he's a New York Knicks fan. And you guys did lose Marcus Morris. Hopefully, one day, you know what I'm saying, the Knicks will come back and be where they should be, which is one of the better teams in the NBA. You know, like when I was growing up, a bad year for the Knicks was like them like being like the seventh or eighth seed, or something like that. That was like a bad year for the New York Knicks. Not this shit that we've seen for the past 15 going on 20 years since Allen Houston went down. You know what I'm saying? Like ever since that time period, they just sucked. But I think the Knicks, from what I've read, are going to try to build organically or internally, like through drafting and scouting, and not just trying to get this big, high risk free agent prize. So hopefully the Knicks will be a better organization for you soon. But let's talk about Marcus Morris, okay, who has left the Knicks via trade and has joined the Los Angeles Clippers. Okay, so first of all, let me say this: for the Knicks, they got in this deal a couple. I think I don't know everything off the top of my head, but I remember seeing like some first round draft picks, maybe some second round draft picks future. They got a couple of small time players, and also they got oh geez, man. Sometimes these Clipper guys, man, I get their names mixed up. Mo Harkless. They got Mo Harkless. And he's a solid player, but of course, for the Clippers, that's an upgrade. I'm pretty sure that the Knicks are looking more at the first round draft picks because they're trying to build for the future. Whereas with the Clippers, they're trying to win right now. All right, they're trying to win right now, and they're looking for right now. So the thing about Marcus Morris versus Mo Harkless, both of them are very good defensive players, but Marcus Morris is a much more solid and dependable offensive player. And with his height, he helps to rectify one of the few problems that the Clippers have, and that's their size down low. All right, but the thing about Marcus Morris is, so far this season with the Knicks in 43 games, Marcus Morris is a 44% three-point shooter. So he's lights out from three-point range. All right, he's averaging 19 points per game for the Knicks. I don't think he's going to average 19 points per game for the Clippers, but at least for right now, the Clippers have 5 fucking players on their team right now that are averaging 19 points per game for the Clippers. That, of course, will be Marcus Morris, along with Montrezl Harrell, along with Lou Williams, along with Paul George, and, of course, the guy that's probably the best overall player in the game, Kawhi Leonard. And speaking of Kawhi Leonard has been balling as of late, all right? The injuries that he was suffering from earlier this season, I did a video earlier. I was saying earlier this, I think it was a couple weeks ago or maybe a week ago, when I was saying that Kawhi was laboring last postseason, and as a way of trying to have his knee issue get better, he kind of pretty much stopped playing any type of competitive basketball. Pretty much just let his knee heal, so he kind of got out of shape. At the beginning of the season, Kawhi was a little heavy as far as playing weight is concerned, and he had to play his way back into shape. But of course, when you have a knee issue and you have added weight, that's going to compound some things. So that's why earlier this year he was missing 3 games in a row sometimes, and people were like, remember there was a little brouhaha about all of this low management. But now Kawhi has gotten into great shape. He looks better. He looks quicker. He looks like the Kawhi Leonard of old on the defensive end. And in the last 11 games that he's played in, the last 11 games he's actually played in for the Clippers are 10-1. I think their only loss was like a close loss to the Kings or some shit like that. But they are 10-1 in the last games with Kawhi Leonard actually playing for them. And in those games, Kawhi's like averaging like 31.5 points, like 7.5 rebounds, 5.3 assists, I think 2 steals, 1 block, 50% shooting from the floor, 41% shooting from 3-point range, 89% from the foul line. And he's getting to the foul line about 8 times a game. So Kawhi Leonard, when I hear these numbers, plus he's only averaging 2 turnovers a game, when I hear these numbers, they sound like Michael Jordan. Seriously, they sound like Jordan-like numbers. The second three-peat. Uh, you know, it's crazy. It's like Kawhi Leonard. I don't even want to keep going with the Jordan comparisons, but Kawhi Leonard is the best guy, the best player that I've seen in a long time in the NBA. Now Kevin Durant is phenomenal, especially on the offensive end. But Kevin Durant's not playing this season, so that's why we're not talking about him. But you have Kawhi Leonard, who I think is the best basketball player right now in the NBA, and probably the best closer. Then you have Paul George, who earlier in his career was often questioned about his ability to close out games or hit clutch shots. I remember there was a stretch where he was like 0 for 14 in game tying or game winning situations or some shit like that when he was with the Pacers. But this is a guy that has played with Russell Westbrook, and no matter what you think about Russell Westbrook as a player, one thing about Russell Westbrook is you gotta be a certain type of player, have a certain type of mind frame to survive playing with Russell Westbrook. Okay, then of course now he's playing with the Clippers, so he's playing with Kawhi Leonard. He's playing with this team with all these dogs, these alphas. You got to bring it. And Paul George last year with the Thunder, before he got injured, with the Thunder, Paul George was an MVP caliber candidate, hitting game winners and dropping 40 at a moment's notice. He looked phenomenal. I think there was a stretch where I remember doing a video. There was a stretch from late December until February. Paul George was averaging 33 points a game, like 8 rebounds, like 4 assists. He was shooting like 48% from the floor, like 38, 39% from 3. I mean, he was phenomenal. And he was doing it on the defensive end as well. Paul George, before the injury, was like a top 4-3 player in the league. So Paul George has really arrived. And when he gets healthy, totally healthy, uh, the Clippers are going to be on another level. Of course, you have Montrezl Harrell. He's doing his thing. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be a bully, a beast down low. All right. Then, of course, you have Lou Williams, who is, and this is all due respect for John Hondo Havlicek. Frank Ramsey started in the 6-man position with the Boston Celtics in the 1950s. John Havlicek went further with it. And you've had a lot of great 6 men in NBA history. Of course, you had Kevin McHale. You had Detlef Schrempf with the Dallas Mavericks. Okay. And then the Indiana Pacers being a 6-man. But as long as Lou Williams has been, and of course you have Jamal Crawford, Tony Kukoc, John Starks, a lot of these great players have thrived in that 6-man role. Tim Thomas with the Bucks in the early 2000s. We've had a lot of guys that have been great six men. But for a guy, uh, 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 the microwave Vinnie Johnson with the Detroit Pistons, you know, but for a guy, Lou Williams, that pretty much done it his entire career, and I think he's a multiple Sixth Man of the Year winner. Lou Williams is the greatest sixth man in the history of NBA. All right? You have all of these great scoring options on one team now. 5 guys. All right? Most of these guys, elite defenders. Now you have another great defender in Marcus Morris. Patrick Beverly's not a great scorer, but he's a high energy, high impact guy. You know what I'm saying? Great rebounder for his position. Tenacious defender. I'm telling you, man, I know that the media loves to talk about LeBron, the Lakers. I know since the tragedy that happened with Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and the 7 others, I know that the Lakers are the rooting favorite for the NBA fandom. But as much as we may want the Lakers to win a title, it's really hard for me to see them beating the Clippers in a 7-game series with the Clippers fully stocked and loaded. Unless LeBron has a series, I don't want to say series of his lifetime because he's had some phenomenal series, but he's going to have to perform at a level he hasn't in years. AD's going to have to be an absolute beast in that series, and you're going to have some unsung heroes for the Lakers. You're going to have KCP still performing at this level he's playing now, as opposed to how he was playing earlier this year. You're going to have a lot of these other guys. You're going to have Kyle Kuzma be that third guy, that X factor. That's the only way the Lakers are going to be able to even stand a chance against the Clippers in a series. Um, that's my personal opinion. Um, the Clippers are deeper. They still have 2 roster spots open. Shout out to Ticket TV for saying this in a live stream. The Clippers are working out Joakim Noah, who's another alpha male, you know, tough, hard-nosed guy. And he hates LeBron James' guts. Hates him. I'm telling you, man, this Clippers team. Look, the thing about the Lakers that bothered me, LeBron James is, in my opinion, a top 6 or 7 guy in the league right now. All right, of course, historically, he's a top 10 player, top 5, no matter depending on how you view his career. For long stretches in the NBA, he was the best player in the league. I no longer think he's the best player in the league, but he's top 6 or 7, somewhere in that range. AD's top 3, all right? But outside of those guys, you do have Kyle Kuzma. But outside of those guys, I mean, do we really have anybody in the Lakers that's like really like, oh, fuck God, I don't want no parts of him. You know what I'm saying? Um, Also, the Lakers to me are kind of predictable offensively. LeBron James comes down, you know what I'm saying? When the Lakers come down to, when they have the offensive possession, they come down, and then 3/4 of the time they dump it to AD. Now, AD is a phenomenal player, but that's kind of predictable defensively. Whereas with the Clippers, they have all these damn weapons. They have all these guys that can open up the lanes because of their outside shooting ability. And, you know what I'm saying, it's going to be tough, man. Like, Anthony Davis can knock down threes, but he's not Dirk Nowitzki. I'm just saying, man. Look, this is another thing. The Clippers are probably finally starting to hit their stride. They're probably about to start hitting their stride. They're 38-13. All right. I think the Lakers are 38-12, I believe. Or I might be off with that. I know the Clippers are 38-13, and the Lakers are like 36-12, or I forgot their records. But the point being, at one point, all I know is the Lakers are 2.5 games ahead of the Clippers. And if you're the Clippers, you are ecstatic about that. Because in the 51 games that the Clippers have played this year, only 21 of them have featured both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on the court at the same time. So you've had all these games coming into the season where Paul George missed a lot of stretch of games. Then then the last few, out of the last 15 games, Paul George has missed a lot of games. Kawhi, he has the load management. He doesn't play the second of back-to-backs. He misses games every 6 games or so, something like that. So you're giving away games, right? You're kind of giving away games, potentially, because of the weakening in the starting lineup because guys aren't out there. Patrick Beverley had some injury issues, all right? But despite that, this Clippers team is still on a pace to win a lot of fucking games. This is how the gap has narrowed. At one point during this season, the Clippers were only on pace to win about 52 games, which would have been underperforming a little bit, all right? That would have been underperforming. They were on pace to only win 52 games at one point. The Lakers were once on pace to win 70 games. Remember we all did that video, we were doing videos like toward the end of November, and they were just beating the shit out of everybody for a while, right? And we were like, damn, they might beat the 72 Lakers win record. 69 victories during the 71-72 season. And we were like, damn, man, this team looks phenomenal. But, we were saying at the same time, we're not trying to hate, but you gotta, keep it real. The Lakers aren't really beating a lot of good teams right now. December's going to pose a threat. All you guys are hating. You had to bring up anything. You always got to bring up something negative, blah, 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 blah. And now the Lakers still have the best record, but now they're only on pace to win 62 games, which is still a great season, but it's not 70. And the Clippers are on pace right now to win about 58 games, which is a pretty solid season, but to consider the amount of games that the guys have missed. So that's a narrowing of the gap from 18 wins advantage to just 4. The Clippers are coming. All right? And me personally, I still have issues with LeBron James playing point guard for an entire duration of a season into the playoffs and the wear and tear that's going to have on his body. I'm still, cautious of that. That's a very demanding position. I just wonder how he's going to hold up to that. His body's going to hold up, with the rigors of that. I would have felt better about it if he was younger, but he's 35 years old. That's the reality of it. And I still think that, of course, he's a defensive liability in the backcourt. I don't trust this overall toughness of the Lakers team. Anthony Davis isn't exactly the most physical guy. He could be bullied. Um, he is somewhat injury prone. And physicality does play a role in these things. Like, for instance, in the 1983 NBA Finals, if Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was more physical, a little bit younger, stronger, I suspect that the Lakers would have won a couple of games in that series. They wouldn't have won, I think, against the Sixers, the 83 Sixers team, but they would have won maybe 1 or 2 games. But as great a player as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is and was, one thing that he did not like to do was bang. He was not a banger. He was a finesse guy. And guys like Moses Malone and Artis Gilmore used to give him fits. He did not like playing against those guys. Moses Malone was a bruiser, all right, down low. And during the '83 finals, if I remember serving correctly, he out rebounded Kareem by a margin like 72-30. He completely dominated him on the offensive boards, and they swept them in that series. Artis Gilmore is probably the second strongest player in NBA history behind Wilt Chamberlain, and there have been many times where it was rumored that Kareem used to have fits about having to come up and play, when he would see that they were about to play the Chicago Bulls when Gilmore was there, or later on the Spurs, which was more frequent because they eventually moved to the Western Conference later on. He didn't like playing against those guys. So when I'm bringing that up because it does matter. Now, also there is the thing where when you're a finesse guy and you shoot from outside, that does create a matchup problem as well. But when you have big guys that also are bruisers but can also shoot from outside themselves, that kind of neutralizes that, especially if they shoot even better from the arc than Davis. So that's the thing about the Lakers that kind of scares me if you're a Laker fan. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that it's impossible for the Lakers to win that series if they were to play against each other in the Western Conference Finals or whatever. But if I'm a Laker fan, I do fear this Clipper team. Okay? Um, just like how when I was a Chicago Bulls fan in '96, the one team that I feared was the Magic because I knew that we didn't really have an answer for Shaquille O'Neal. Now, granted that the strategy that the Bulls had, which was basically to just let Shaq do what he wanted to do and try to shut down and neutralize everybody else, ultimately worked. But that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? So that's all I got to say, man. In closing, Marquise Morris makes this team elite. Elite. Like, I'm to the point now, I think that the Clippers are probably going to finish with the best record in the Western Conference, which when you consider all the games that these guys have missed, their marquee guys, that really, is impressive, man. And I also want to give a shout out to Jerry West, man. I see a lot of guys out there that disrespect Jerry West and say that he was overrated as a basketball player. And that's bullshit. Jerry West, before Kobe, and before Jordan, of course, and then Kobe, Jerry West was the best shooting guard in the history of the NBA. All right? Before the arrival of Michael Jordan, he was the best shooting guard in the history of the NBA. Jerry West, despite the injuries that kind of riddled his career, true, his finals record is not great. But at the same time, you have to also say that Rudy LaRusso's finals record isn't great. And Elgin Baylor's finals record is not great. In fact, Elgin Baylor never won a championship. All right. But I do notice that people don't hold it against Elgin Baylor as much as they do Jerry West. And that's kind of unusual because usually white guys get the fucking, long end of the stick, and it's the black guy that gets the short end of the stick. But people don't hold it against Elgin. They never won a title, but they do hold it against Jerry West. Um, Jerry West was tough. He was hard-nosed. He was an elite defensive player. He was very competitive, fiery. He demanded excellence amongst his teammates. Um, he was a big-time scorer, a clutch performer, a clutch shot maker. He had one of the quickest releases in the history of the NBA. At one point in time, in his absolute peak, Jerry West really didn't have any weaknesses in his game. He was a good outside shooter. He was a good mid-range shooter. he wasn't the most athletic guy, but he, could more than hold his own on against almost anybody on the defensive end. And he averaged 27.4 points per game for his career. He averaged 29, I think, 0.1 points per game in the playoffs for his career. And he's an all-time great. And as he moved into coaching, that wasn't really what he excelled at. But when he became an executive, he truly excelled in that role. Like his masterstroke was Kobe Bryant. Okay, that was his masterstroke. At the time, and I'm old enough to remember that, and most of you guys are old enough to remember that too, if you're like 35 and older. At the time, that move was not popular with the Lakers. And Ticker to tell you that. At the time, people didn't like that. They liked Vlade Divac. They was like, why'd you get rid of Divac for this kid? Because at the time, it was not popular to, first of all, put all your eggs on a young guy. A guy that didn't go to college. The track record for that was horrendous. Most of those guys did not work out. You know what I'm saying? For every Moses Malone, you know what I'm saying? It was a 500 college guys that didn't make it. Even Daryl Dawkins, who went from high school to the pro, never really became what he could have because some people felt like he needed college. But it was Jerry West's masterstroke because that was the greatest move in Lakers history. And Jerry West continued to be great wherever he was in management in the NBA. Whether it was with the Memphis Grizzlies later on, I believe, and now with the Clippers. Everywhere he goes, everywhere he went, those franchises got better ultimately. And the Clippers, if they're able to win a championship this year, not only will that enhance Kawhi Leonard's legacy even further, it'll bring him 3 championships, which will match LeBron. You know what I'm saying? And far fewer final appearances. It would add so much to Jerry West's legacy. It'll be. I would have to put him as the greatest NBA executive ever, bar none. But that's all I got to say, man. Tell me what you guys think.